Oh, we're on. Hello. Welcome back to another Misteregg's Pattaya podcast. In fact, this is called... What's it called again, Balloon Chaser?
It's called Friday Night Down the Pub.
Yes!
Because it's Friday night.
Yes. No, it really is Friday night down the pub. Even though there's daylight coming out, it's a bit late.
It's Friday somewhere.
We've had a late one. We've got a special guest this week. As you can see, there are three of us on the sofa. Hello, special guest. Can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Pete. I'm from the UK.
Hello, Pete. Wouldn't lie a bit. Now, I always say I'm a proper journalist because I went to media school in Sandwell College in the 1990s. And I was always taught the worst question to ever ask a guest is, so tell us a little bit about yourself. So, Peter.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, what would you want to know?
Put your mic nice.
Sorry, is that better? Yeah.
Just, I've only met you it's our third meeting, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. I think I was just coming down Pattaya, I believe, and I was like, it's misteregg.
Yes. Oh, I remember. Yeah, absolutely.
Are you coming in for a drink? Yeah, why not?
I got him in. I hooked him. Bing!
That was your first mistake, Peter.
Well, yeah. No turning back.
No.
So, how many times have you been to
this is about my third time at the moment. Yeah, third time now.
Okay. And you came here before the nasty pandemic or not?
No, just after. I'd always planned to come because I've got my friend that lives here. I've got a number of friends here now, and I'd always planned to come out. But obviously, with what happened, we were getting locked down, and it just got pushed back and back and back. And then I just took things started to get back to some sort of normality, and I just took the plunge and come out and never turned back. Really, I love the place. It's
fantastic that you have.
It's great.
Well done, man. Now, I always like to know a newbie's. I hope you don't mind me labelling you a newbie.
Well, I am kind of a newbie, really.
That's all right then. We're all friends. What do you think of this town? What do you think? For somebody, because there might be people listening to this who are thinking of coming here but have never been here before. What do you reckon?
One thing I would say is never to listen to anybody that's never been advice. Because people, I always find that everybody that's got something negative about Pattaya or Thailand are the people that have never actually been and experienced it. So you get all the typical things of, oh, well, we know what you're going out there for. We know you're going out to see the lady boys and all the rest of it. And it's...
And some of the things are not true.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it is... If you listen to the people that have never been, then I suppose it could kind of put you off. Yeah. Try and see if you can get to speak to someone that's maybe been out a number of times or been experienced or maybe even lived there, which I'm quite lucky because I've got a couple of people that do live here and that I do know, and I took their advice and it's been absolutely brilliant. I'll get a prime example is my first trip, when I booked my first trip out here. I went for a travel agent, which I very rarely do, to be honest. I normally book all my own flights, my hotels, and I do it all myself. But I booked a hotel, flights through a travel agent literally about 2 weeks before I was due to come out here. Just in general chat online with my friend who lives here, and he said, whereabouts are you staying? I told him, mate, that's miles away. It's just it's like right on the outskirts of Pattaya. You don't want to be staying there. So within that, I said, no problem, mate. I'll sort it out. So I got ready, got in my car, went straight to the travel agent, said, look, I need to change this hotel.
Yeah.
And luckily, I'm so glad I did.
It's interesting because me and Balloon Chaser were talking about, does anybody use travel agents anymore?
Well, it's quite interesting because I don't. I did that particular one because it's a place. I'm one of these. If it's a place I've never actually been, and obviously it was quite a big trip. It's a long way to come from the UK. For a first trip, it's a lot of money, and you think, well, if you don't know a great deal about it, you think, well, it's maybe a bit safer just to. But now, I mean, for any of my trips now, I just don't bother with it. I mean, it's very rare that I use a travel agent now. To be honest, if I do, I'll just go in and get a bit of advice and get a base price off them and then go back.
You had a favourite one, Phil, didn't you?
A favourite travel agent?
Yeah.
Well, I made a video about, there was a video I made in Birmingham when I'm from Birmingham.
Yeah.
I should say you're from Hull, Peter.
Yes.
Maybe we'll talk about that later. But I went to Birmingham, and I went back to Birmingham after 5 years. The travel agent that I booked my original trip with was still there.
Yeah.
And actually the prices, believe it or not, hadn't really changed that much from 1996.
Because back in the day, I always used to use a travel agent, and it was always the same one. I could never remember whether it was called West-East Travel or East-West Travel.
Yes.
And that was in London, and they were just specialists on everything to do with Thailand.
Yeah.
And they gave good knowledge, but I guess now most people book online.
Well, I think with the internet, and obviously we've got with where technology's gone now, you know, I mean, especially like things like your flights and things like that. If you book direct with your flights, with your airlines, you generally get a much better deal. I mean, I try now, even the hotel now, I tend to try and book directly with the hotel because I get a much better deal, cutting out that middleman.
Yeah, but I always think that, especially the Southeast Asian based travel agent. What I mean by that is the travel agent I went to was in Chinatown, and it was like a Chinese guy, and he had contacts within Eva Air. Actually, it was China Air in those days, if anybody remembers the old China Air flight from Amsterdam. I did, that was my first flight. But they've got contacts with Eva Air, they've got contacts with British Airways, maybe Thai Airways, and they can seem to get, I think, actually, you can sometimes get a cheaper price with them. So it'd be an interesting video to make, actually.
It is. It's quite interesting. Now, I do a lot of comparison. I mean, I'm by trade, I'm a software engineer, so I'm very computer sort of.
You see, he's clever.
Yeah.
Why do we always? We had Ben Manila on.
I
he was
told
really
you,
clever.
Don't invite any more clever people.
No.
On. Zero.
No.
So in that regards, you know, I can sit in front of a computer and I can sort of like scout the internet pretty quickly and find the best deals. And one thing I would say to anybody, if you are booking anything through the internet via a direct airline or a travel agent or whatever, if you've got a credit card, book it on a credit card.
Very good tip.
Always look to see if they're at all and out to protected or one or the other, because if there is a problem, no matter what happens, it's much easier to make a claim through your credit card company than it is through a normal standard bank. So that's one tip I would always, I as a rule, that's my first rule.
It's a really good tip, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
And I know not everybody can do that, but generally, as a rule, that if you can get that and you've got that, you know, it's a much better way to do it.
So let us know in the comments down below if you would like us to do a video about that, and maybe we'll asking for a couple of people, maybe in the UK or maybe in America or Australia, that will be willing to go to travel agents in your home country and find out actually how much it is to book a flight, and then try and book it online, Skyscanner or whatever, booking.com. That would be an interesting video.
Yes. It is interesting.
Someone will steal that idea, I'm sure.
You know, I stay in a lot of hotels at the moment for reasons that you might know. And quite often booking via like Agoda or something does end up being cheaper than booking with a hotel.
It can,
purely because they book so many rooms, so that's where they get their discount.
And I think sometimes they actually they do it at a loss, but it'd be interesting to find out, and maybe Nick would be able to sort of input us with this, because he now has the hotel.
Nicholas Dean?
Yes.
You know Nick?
I do know Nick.
Our friend over on NDTVI. I always say Nick helped me when I was first becoming a YouTuber. He put me on his show, and my subs like tripled overnight, which was fantastic. I'll never forget Nick. So
that meant you had 3 by the end of the night, then, was it? I remember those days.
we were desperate
Ask
times.
The egg. Do you remember
Ask the egg? Yeah.
I remember it.
So how do you know Nick, and what about his?
The hotel that I stay in is around sort of that area. The sort of
so where are you staying at this trip?
I've stayed at the Sunbeam on Soy. It's in between Soy 8 and Soy. It's actually called Soy. The mini Soy is called Soy Night Out.
Peter, as we say in Birmingham, I don't know if this is a British thing, but It's been there for yonks.
Been there for
Yes.
yonks.
Been there for
That's
yonks.
the one, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had that
Yeah.
saying in Hull as well, yeah. So, yeah, Sunbeam, one of the main reasons is that there probably are other hotels that I could stay in, but as most people can see, I'm wheelchair bound. So
Well, we haven't mentioned that yet. I was going to just...
Well, I know we probably was going to get onto that because
Yeah.
I know that was going to be part of the discussion.
Yeah.
But so I need to be able to get in and out the hotel. I need to be able to get a room that I can access.
Yeah.
And there are anybody that wants to come out and that's in the same situation. And you think, ooh, I don't know. Just look it up because there's plenty of places you can stay.
We'll get on to disabled access
Yes.
shortly.
Yeah.
Because I think I certainly know, and Balloon Chaser knows, I really feel strongly about this.
Yeah.
Really feel strongly about this. So we'll get there in a minute. But just tell us about Soy 7 at the moment. It's low season.
It's low.
What's it like? Because I haven't been there now. I need to go and see Nick, actually. I think as we speak, he's in the air in his business class flight, probably quaffing a few
No, I believe he's
flutes
back.
of
I think he's
champagne.
back.
Well, the last time I saw he was updating. He was on his last leg. I don't mean on his last legs. I mean he was on the last leg of his journey.
2 nights ago, I believe.
Oh, was
So
it? Oh, okay.
I do believe he's back in Pattaya.
By the time
he's
this
back in
goes out,
Thailand anyway.
Yeah, he'll be back. He'll be
Yeah.
back.
He'll be back.
So give us your opinion on Soy 7 and 8 at the moment for those people that aren't here.
I think personally, it's certainly going in the right direction. I still think that obviously at the moment we're in the low season as we call it.
Yeah.
So it's quite hard to sort of judge. But then if you go about anywhere about the town, in the various areas, everywhere is pretty much the same. Everywhere's quietish.
Yeah.
But it's still personally, I still think it's busier than what I expected.
Yeah.
Certainly Soy 7 night time. You go in there like when Nick does his live show on Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great atmosphere. I didn't expect it to be as busy as it is.
Okay. Cool.
So-
And is other than Nick's bars, and Nick, for those people that don't know, has got 3 bars there, and he's another
it's
2
got
on the
another
way.
2 on the way.
On
yeah.
the way?
Yeah, down
It's
the same
expanding.
side.
NDTVI. If you haven't seen his channel, I'm sure I'm preaching.
I'm on there somewhere.
Preaching to the choir here, right? So, other than those, anywhere around that area you can recommend maybe a quirky little bar that people don't know about.
I quite like Tree Town. Tree Town's pretty
Okay.
good. It's
Yeah.
it's quite. So it seems for me, Tree Town seems a little bit more laid back. Got some really good live sort of Asian bands down there on an evening.
Yeah.
It's looking pretty good as well. Have you seen the neons that have been sort of erecting around there?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so on? It looks
Yeah.
on the night time. It looks fantastic.
Well, there's always these stupid stories that come out that it's closing down, it's been sold, it's going to be I don't know.
Well, I don't know if you know it. I know Nick did a video of it, but if anybody remembers the old Soy Made in Thailand,
yeah.
which originally run from Soy Bacau right through onto Second Road.
It was looking a bit tatty towards the end.
Okay. So Nick did a video which actually gave out quite a bit of information. He's actually done 2. He's mentioned it in two casts now.
Yeah.
I went past yesterday and the day before.
They've started building,
they've
haven't they?
actually
Yeah.
now got structures up.
Yes,
so
yes. They've started kind of. There's a run of. It's like it looks a bit like a hay barn. What can I say? Like
Yeah.
sort of the sides are open, and
Yeah.
it's on the way.
Well,
It's on the way.
A good friend of mine who has a bar on Tree Town
Yeah.
has actually just taken on 2 units on that new complex when it's open.
I know a guy that's taken on 2 units as
Yeah.
well. And then shortly afterwards, unfortunately, had a stroke. So he's doing okay now. He's only a minor one, but he reckons about October.
Wow.
for opening
November,
now.
I've been
Yeah.
told.
Okay.
Yeah, November,
Well, we
so-
wish everyone the best there.
Yeah.
We wish everyone the best. And there's another. I just want to tell this story. Do you remember me and Balloon Chaser? We filmed the videos. He's the man behind the camera. He's so clever. And a little bit further up by Terminal 21, there's an old. And he knows what's coming.
The old drinking street.
Drinking Street, which
Yeah.
is now come down, and I think is going to be redeveloped. And we have a little bit of a friend there, don't we, Balloon Chaser?
I have a particular friend there from when we were filming. Yeah. Well, the good thing was we'd finished filming at the point in which we got told we couldn't film there.
Yes. Well, to be fair, we were trespassing at one point. At one point, but when this guy is basically, he sells coconuts, doesn't he?
He sells coconuts, but he's very well connected. That's what I've heard.
Connected to a coconut tree.
No, he's connected to the owner. I think that's.
Okay. He sells coconut, and if he's watching, he's a very nice man.
He's a very nice man.
Very
indeed.
nice man.
And if he's not watching, he's a total. Where's that button?
Oh yeah, I've got it.
Yeah. Total that.
Yeah, he on 2 occasions we were filming there, and on 2 occasions he's told us to off.
Yeah.
And leave. Right. Not very friendly, but anyway. We digress. Balloon Chaser, just very quickly before we start talking about the main thing we want to talk about on the podcast. Congratulations are in order.
Oh dear. Is this about Aston Villa qualifying for Europe?
No.
Oh.
We don't mention that football team on this programme. Although I was given a shirt yesterday with West Bromwich Albion on the back, which was very nice. But anyway, thank you, Andy, by the way, if you're watching. You've got your own channel. You've got a few channels, actually. One of these, you've got a few irons in the fire.
Certainly have. All the bases are covered.
And it's just reached 1,000 subs. So, well done.
Yeah, cheers to anyone who's subscribed. 1,000 subscribers to Balloon Chaser.
We might have a... Oh, there it is. You can't hear it, but it's too loud.
Is it good?
It's people clapping.
Oh, thank you so much.
So very, very briefly, if people haven't seen your channel, Balloon Chaser, tell us what it is.
Well, it might segue into what we're talking about later as well, because many of the videos are hotel reviews. So I'm very keen to review hotels around Pattaya, around Phuket, and around anywhere basically that I can find an excuse to go to. Then I like to travel a bit, so I like to get out to the islands like Koh Samui, various places. And then there's the whole thing about getting there. So there's a whole transport about how to get there, what are the steps to take. And then maybe 1 or 2 restaurants or newly open places. So just a few different things that keep me occupied when I'm not working on the channel.
It's kind of a review channel with a bit of travel in there as well. But the thing I love about your channel is you're so, I wouldn't say pedantic, but it's like you get a clipboard and you just check everything.
That's me. I should be there at the bus depot, checking the buses in and out with a little checklist. Like on the buses.
So we'll talk about, checking time arrival, exactly what floors, what kind of, I don't know, how big the shower cap is in the bathroom, how many tablets of soap you get.
I thought it was a shower cap, but I found out it wasn't a shower cap.
Where the switches are in the room. Of course, you have the big reveal. The big reveal in your channel, every video in the hotel is...
What's in the fridge?
What's in the fridge? Oh, man, I can't wait for it. You tune in and you just wait for what's in the fridge.
You and me both. We are the 2 people who wait to find out what's in the fridge. And especially when it's a glass door fridge, sometimes I have to kick those in because it spoils the big reveal that you can see.
What's in the fridge in the Sandy? Is it Sandy Bay you're in? Sandy?
Sunbeam.
What's in the fridge in the Sunbeam Hotel?
I've just got bottles of water in there at the moment.
I'm not going there.
No.
No, that's not going to get reviewed, is it?
No chocolate?
No.
Bottles of beer?
I might have a bottle of beer in
Nuts? Salty snacks? Nothing?
there. No, nothing.
Oh dear.
Shouldn't put snacks
I'm
in the
never
fridge.
there.
No.
Oh, I've been in fridges that have had snacks in.
Really?
By the way, slightly segueing off, very briefly, we'll get into what we want to talk about in a minute. I keep on saying that. Have you seen this story about Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
No.
Ibrahimovic, is it? Or Ibrahimovic? You know,
Ibrahimovic.
the player that used to play for Manchester United.
Yeah.
He did an interview and he says he hated playing at Man United because one day he was playing away. He was an away game and they stay overnight in a hotel. And he was thirsty in the middle of the night. He was thirsty. He woke up and so he went into the minibar in the fridge and got a can of orange juice, right? When he got his salary, he noticed he was £1 short. Right, Zlatan Ibrahimovic was on £300,000 a week, right? Let's sink that. Let's let that sink in. £300,000 a week, right? And he was a pound short. And he actually asked the manager. He demanded to speak to the manager of Manchester United, who I think might have been that Norwegian guy. I forget what his name is now. Solskjaer. And says, what's happened to the pound? I'm a pound short. And he says, oh, yes, for your orange juice. And he's still going on about it now.
Which somehow reminds me, we should be doing a podcast at some point about landlords, good and bad, in Pattaya.
That's a good one.
Because my last landlord deducted £1 from my damage deposit because I'd used some electricity after the event. So before he gave me my damage deposit back, he deducted £1.
Actually, a video about that is good, but also another video. We shouldn't really do these video ideas online because people steal them. No. About when you take over, when you hire, rent an apartment, a condo, a house, things you should do straight away, because somebody's contesting an electric bill at the moment, a friend of mine, and a friend of the channel, I should say. And they didn't take a photo of the meter. So there's little things like that. But anyway, we digress. Peter, we talked earlier, touched on the fact that you are in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I feel so strong about things like disabled access, wheelchair access. Balloon Chaser's talked about his channel. He has always mentions about disabled access, wheelchair access. And it's not just for people in wheelchairs. It's for people who may be old and, have problems seeing or are a bit doddery on their feet, for want of a better phrase. Also people with young babies in pushchairs.
Yeah.
2018, Pattaya was the 16th most visited city in the world for tourism. In the world, right? There were Thailand had 3 cities in there. It had Phuket, Bangkok, and Pattaya, right? And yet, the state of the walkways, pavements, sidewalks is so bad, right? Tell us about your experiences, Peter.
It's quite interesting, to be honest. I mean, one of my friends that is now back in the UK, but he spent quite a few months out here. And one of the first things he said, I worry about sort of when you go over there, how are you going to get about, how are you going to get from A to B?
Because let me sorry to interrupt you. I ain't going to let you talk. You come on your own. You don't come with a...
No, just come on my own. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it was just concerned, was like, how are you going to get about? Most places, the pathways are not great. And when I say not great, they're generally, as a rule, they're wide enough. It's just the bits of them are missing, or they've dug half of it up. So you'll get halfway down a soy, and then you'll have to go back again because they've blocked the other half of it off, and there's no signs to say that it's blocked off anywhere. So as a rule, generally, I just tend to use the roads, to be honest. I stay at the side of the road.
Which is so bad.
Over
the
here,
16th most visited city in the world.
Yeah.
And you're a person on your own. You value your independence massively. I know. I don't know you that well, but I know that, right? You come on your own, and you got to go on the road. I mean, it's dangerous enough on the road when you're able-bodied.
Yeah. I mean, walking down Central Pattaya Road over the last few months, going into years. Yeah. It's just an obstacle course.
Oh yeah,
So if it's an obstacle course for somebody who's walking down there, I just cannot imagine, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. But to be honest, I mean, and then when we look at sort of access to places. I mean, I think the biggest problem we've got in Pattaya is like most places are raised up, and there's a reason for it. It's obviously because at certain times of the year, it's not. This place is known for flooding, and the streets, most soils turn into bloody rivers. So,
but Peter, I don't know if you've spent a lot of time in Bangkok.
No, I haven't. No, I did plan to go up there this trip, but it's gone a little bit out the window at the moment.
It is completely different. There's just a different vibe and attitude towards that sort of thing. What do you think, Balloon Chaser?
Yeah, I lived and worked in Bangkok for over 10 years, And I have to say that a lot of these things are patchy because there's good examples, and you gave some good advice about choosing your hotel carefully and things like that, because I do hotel reviews now, and I always review accessibility, and some of them appear to be good, and some of them appear to be not so good. And that's true in Bangkok, that there's a lot of the new buildings, for example, are constructed under new regulations. They have the ramps, they have the lifts, they have the access, they have the parking spaces, and they have a number of other things as well. But trying to retrofit old buildings in Bangkok or Pattaya is difficult, time-consuming and expensive, and that's why I think they struggle to do it.
And I honestly think Pattaya is becoming a little bit like Hong Kong was in the 1970s and 80s. It's just so many people crammed into a small space. We were going to do a podcast about this, and we might still do it, about Pattaya versus Phuket, because I went on holiday with my girlfriend, and with whom I'm in a loving relationship, can I just say, only because she's just right behind you. If you're watching on YouTube, there she is, working away. And there's so much more space in Phuket. And I think a lot of it is to do with geography. There's a lot of hills and stuff like that, so they don't build up. But I mean, how many square miles is Pattaya? Like maybe.
It's not huge.
It's not. It's if you go along the Sukhumvit, it's maybe 2.5 miles, and that's it. And that's like 2.5 miles square. That's all it is.
Well, I think for me, Pattaya is great because it, as a rule, it's quite a flat sort of city.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you actually see, I mean, I passed 3 or 4 this morning. There's quite a lot of us wheelchair users here.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of us. I mean, I passed, as I said, coming here just from my hotel to come down here today, 3 or 4 people, you know, and so there's plenty of us, you know, there's plenty, and I think that does attract this place to people like myself, because it's flat. There's no real sort of like hills to get up or down. You know, it is generally.
You talked about the fact that the weather, you know, sometimes it rains and it floods and all that. It floods in Bangkok. And they don't have those issues.
Well, they still do have issues though in Bangkok as well, and I think a lot of it is, first of all, awareness. So as you say, the number of people in Pattaya must help with awareness. But I used to follow this guy who he had a motorcycle accident and became wheelchair bound, and he became a crusader, if you like, on behalf of those with accessibility issues. And he's got a website, I think it's called accessibilityisfreedom.org. And he basically logs all of the places that have got wheelchair access and such like.
This is UK based?
He's based in Bangkok.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's why I mention it here, because actually if people want to go to Bangkok, he's got maps on there of, for example, the BTS and other train stations showing which ones are accessible for people in wheelchairs. Now, even in this day and age, despite the fact that court orders have been made and so on and so forth, it's not possible to ride on the complete train system around Bangkok.
But one thing I would say on top of that as well is if you compare, I mean, I know we're talking about sort of Pattaya and Thailand as a whole, but even back in the UK, a rule was passed by law in 2007, I believe, or somewhere around there, which stated anything that gets any sort of property or public area, so will it be a shop or shopping mall or anything open to the public, has to provide wheelchair access and disabled toilet access. Now, I'm not going to name and shame any places, but there's certain places where I live, I can't physically get into that building on my own without assistance, yet they have a disabled toilet. I mean, we're 2023 now, so, you know, they've had plenty of time. There's government funds out there to be able to do it. So, you know, when we talk, I know we're talking primarily about sort of Thailand and Pattaya, but the UK is no better than here, really, in regards to access.
We haven't mentioned toilets yet. What's your feeling generally on toilet accessibility in Pattaya?
Here it's a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. If you're going into any of the main shopping malls, public areas, there's fine. There's accessible toilets. There's no issue with that at all. But as a rule, I mean, most of the hotels, my hotel has a disabled toilet in the main area. As I mentioned before, the room that I stay in is all accessible, etc. So there's no I don't think it's so much the hotels or the big public sort of areas. I think it's more of the smaller venues. But we have that problem in the UK. It's no different. It's no different in the UK than it is really here. It's just, I think here there's more, because it is primarily a tourist area. We're more condensed, so we've got a lot more bars and smaller bars, sort of in a smaller area, in a smaller condensed area than what we would have at home. So I don't think the actual issue is any worse here than it is at home, really. In regards to sort of like disabled toilet access. One thing I would say, the only thing, and again, I would say it's 50-50 between here and the UK, is ramp access. Like, the ramps are so dangerous here. I mean, even in, like, if you go to, I'm not going to mention anything, but a very, very, very well worldwide known restaurant establishment, and we'll go at that.
I haven't got a problem with you mentioning it if you want to.
Well, okay.
Because I can always come back in the comments and
if you look at any of them, there's two. The first one I've just talked about is McDonald's.
Okay.
I don't really eat McDonald's anyway, so that goes out the window.
I'm starving now.
Really?
But
really?
The ramps.
They should restrict your access to McDonald's and not about anyone else's.
Stop talking about food.
They've got ramp access, and I'm not kidding you. The ramps are like that.
Yeah.
So there's no way that without assistance I would be able to get up that ramp.
And I think maybe that you mentioned assistance in Southeast Asia in general. I would say people that are in wheelchairs that are usually assisted by somebody, because there's just that community feel in Southeast Asia that you don't get. I'm not just talking about Thailand. I'm talking about Cambodia, Vietnam. You usually get if you go out shopping, you'll go as a family, you'll go as a group, as a community. There's far more of a community thing here, and maybe it's that. Maybe that's
This thing about ramps. I mean, I've been to a couple of hotels recently, and some of the ramps look to me to be extremely narrow. And this idea of the slope on the ramp, I didn't realise it's actually in Thai law for the angle that
there should be. Same with England. In the UK,
the same law as in.
They have to be. I
countries.
can't remember the exact sort of angle they have to be illegal, but there is a required limit or a required sort of advised sort of angle.
But as with a lot of things, probably in other countries, but definitely in Thailand, enforcement becomes an issue because. If you don't do what you're supposed to do under that law, what happens to you?
Yeah.
And in the UK, I mean, I find in the UK, even though they set new laws, there's always ways around them.
Yeah.
And I find that's the biggest problem we have in the UK.
Yeah.
In regards to sort of access, it's not the fact that the laws are not there and they're not. It's the fact that the people that own these properties or own these businesses find a way to get around it.
Well, the other thing about Thailand is when I was in Bangkok, one of the biggest changes was they tried to introduce lifts in all of the stations because obviously the SkyTrain, you've got to go up. And in reality, you need 4 lifts in each station because you need one to the ticket office, one to the platform, one back from the other platform, and one back down to the ground. And whilst they passed a law that said that had to be the case, they interpreted as they had to have a lift. So they started putting 1 lift in each of the BTS stations when they actually required 4 lifts. And these are huge issues that obviously there's expense involved and inconvenience and stopping the business when it's running if they're retrofitting. But nevertheless, to try and get round laws like that does seem pretty sad in this day and age.
I totally agree. And I think...
Sorry, Peter.
Yeah.
Talking about BTS, which is in Bangkok, I was going to talk about or ask you about public transport. Now, as an example, me and Balloon Chaser did a video about a train journey from Pattaya to Bangkok. I don't know if you saw that video. Many people did. But I mentioned when I got on the train, it was really hard for me to get on the train because it was such a steep,
the steep steps on
step.
That.
I mean, generally, I'm trying to think, BART buses are pretty much out for you.
Yeah, there's no way I could use a BART bus. I mean, if I was to be able to get anywhere, if I need to use public transport anywhere in Pattaya, it would generally be some sort of taxi service. I mean, I generally, coming from Bangkok down to Pattaya, in and out, when I'm flying in and out of Thailand, I generally use a taxi. But I've got a pretty good service guy that I use. I can email him. I book my flights and I have my flights confirmed. I send him an email with the details, and he's got a guy there stood there with a plaque with my name waiting for me in the airport when I arrived. So.
Can you give us that guy's email? So if anybody is interested,
I'll share that with you. I'll give you that. Yeah,
let's give him some business.
Yeah, and it's actually I get a really good price with him as well.
Good.
So
good.
I mean, in other countries, they will have the buses or whatever that can lower to an
appropriate
height and things like that. But obviously, in Thailand, a lot of the public transport, be it bus or train or coach, is quite old stuff.
I was just thinking, when I went to the UK recently, I used public transport exclusively, and I do remember at New Street Station, a train came in. There was a guy who was in a wheelchair, and there was staff there ready to put a ramp up for him. It was just like he was in quicker than me.
Yeah, all of public transport pretty much in the UK now, right down to your bus services. The only thing that you've got with the bus services now is and I think I mentioned this to you in the conversation yesterday or the day before when I was talking to you. In the UK, so all local buses have lower floors, so that they can they have a way of being able to lower, so we can just pull straight on. Now they have a particular area which is assigned for one wheelchair user per bus. The problem is that they also people with pushchairs and young children are also allowed to use that area. Now, if I was to attempt to board a bus in the UK, and there is someone with a pram or pushchair, and they're using that space, the bus driver can politely ask them if they can take the infant or baby or whatever out of the pram and fold the pushchair or pram, but they can't enforce the law. So they can ask them, but if they refuse or say, I'm sorry, I can't, it doesn't fold or whatever, they can't enforce the law. They can't make them do it. So either then, in that situation, I would have to wait for the next bus.
I mean, that's another thing about like education and awareness. Sorry, Phil. About education and awareness that, I mean, out here, to give a shout out to Pattaya, I know that the first central that had disabled parking spaces installed after it was built, but nevertheless the first one to have it installed, was Central Festival in Pattaya. And it was after that the others in places like Bangkok and places like that followed suit. And as far as I've read about it, they've done a fairly decent job of having the appropriate number of nice wide spaces for those that need them.
Yeah, it's not something I really comment on because I don't really drive. I don't drive over here, so I also have no real need to use the parking bays or anything like that. But I have seen them.
But what I was going to comment on is kind of akin to what you were saying about the buses. Is that unfortunately in some parts of Thailand, people who drive, for example, a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz. Think that
calm down.
Think that every single sign of a privileged space applies to them. So what you do find is, unfortunately, some of the spaces that are for people with accessibility issues are actually being used by people who claim to be VIPs and can do anything.
Can I just say, if you do drive a rather nice German car, you are most welcome in this bar. I used to drive a Daihatsu. There you go.
It's always Mercedes-Benz and BMW drivers.
Audis.
No comment. But no, and then obviously the security guards get a nice little tip for allowing people to park where they shouldn't, and so it goes on. And that's part of education and awareness that means, you know, people have, one, got to have the law's got to be enforced.
But that kind of happens in the UK. I mean, I can go to like the local supermarket, and although it states that it's a maximum of 3 hours and that you must display, we have the blue badge scheme in the UK, the display, I can guarantee that on a Saturday morning I can go park my car and I could go around all them disabled bays, and I probably guarantee that a good 30% of those cars parked in them disabled bays don't even have a blue badge.
Able-bodied people.
Yes.
Just key there.
And what I would say as well is that a lot of people that might be people out there don't actually realise what the difference between a disabled bay and a normal bay, because generally if you don't use them you wouldn't understand. So it's not just about the actual fact that the bays are closer to where you're going, or what. For instance, if it's a supermarket car park, you generally find that your blue bays, your disabled bays are closer to the entrance, etc.
Yeah.
It's not always about that. So for me, the big thing for me for a disabled bay, and one of the main reasons I use them and I can't use a normal bay, is that I need extra space at my driver's side to be able to get in and out from my chair into my driver's seat. And I actually have a hoist on the top of my car that actually brings my chair up in out. So when I'm actually driving, the chair is actually stored in the top box.
So you do drive in the UK?
I drive in the UK,
because you said you didn't drive. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've been very serious.
Yeah.
And we've talked about matters for access. There must be some light-hearted things and things that have happened to you over here. If there's people that are disabled, have mobility issues, and are thinking of coming over here, please give them something to say, oh, you know, it's not all that bad.
It's not. No, definitely not. No, I don't want this to come across as it's like everything's negative, and that don't come across because you're going to have problems with this and that. To be honest, all we've done is just highlighted the whole point of this podcast was just to actually emphasise about there are sort of blocks, but the blocks that we've talked about, there's always ways round it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the people out here, no matter what, if you get into any issue, there's always someone about to give you a hand, and whether that be to get into a shop. Or they say, it might be, I mean, I had to go to the pharmacy the other day. I needed to get some things from the pharmacy. There was no way I would have got in that pharmacy. So I just waved to the pharmacist. He'd come to the doorway. I told him what I wanted. Some people might take that as in, well, that shouldn't be like that. But unfortunately, you know, we've all got to accept things that we don't always quite, 100% agree with. You know, yes, it would be lovely if I could get into the pharmacy and speak to him at the desk or what counter.
And you might buy something other than what you want to buy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that is the way things are, unfortunately. And I you've got to accept that at times. You know, we can't have everything 100% all the time.
There is a wonderful community spirit.
It's
here,
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
it really is.
What about people's attitudes out here? How have you found
I find the attitude over here is much more positive than back in the UK, to be honest.
I'm not surprised.
Everything. I mean, like your guards on most bars on an evening. I never had a problem. No, never had any issue. If they see that I want to come in, they'll give me a hand in. No problems at all.
You haven't been thrown out anywhere for fighting?
No.
Drunk and disorderly? No.
Not yet.
Because I know you're probably a little bit shy to talk about it, but you've been telling me some stories about your antics, shall we say?
Yeah. Well,
it's okay. You don't have to say anything. But let's just say. Everyone who's able-bodied comes over here, has a good time. You're having exactly the same.
I love it over here. Yeah, I absolutely love it over here. It's just, it's a place I can come and just wind down, enjoy, in a number of ways. And it's just if you ever thinking about coming over here and you think, I don't know if I can get in there, I don't know if I can do, because I did exactly the same before I come out here. I did worry about things, and it's like, I'm personally, I don't have a YouTube channel at the moment, but it's something that I'm potentially
you should do it.
Doing. And I'm going to cater that round, not just Thailand, but travel as a whole. And even now, a lot of people ask me, how do you get on a plane? And it's actually quite simple, but unless you actually see it or know of it, all airlines, particularly the long hauls that come from the UK and Europe over to Thailand, they've all got things in place, whether you sit in a normal economy seat or whatever. They have got ways of getting you on and off the aircraft without any problems whatsoever.
Would you say that low cost carriers in the UK that maybe fly short destinations to Europe, I don't know if you've ever used one of those?
Yeah, I've been many. To be honest, it's not tentative. I find that it's not generally down to the actual airline itself. It's more down to the actual ground staff, because it's generally a dedicated team in each airport of assisted. They call it assistants. So, like in the UK, I flew out from Manchester. So when I arrive at Manchester, I pipe my car up, I go into the airport, I drop my luggage off, and then I go and report to the assisted desk, and I say I'm quite independent, so I like my lounge access, etc. So when I once I've checked in and I've dropped my luggage off, I'm quite confident in going through the security on my own, parking myself in the lounge and grab a few beers and something to eat. And what I then is that what. So going back to, once I've checked my luggage in there before I go for security, I will let assistants know that I'm here and what flight I'm flying on. They'll already know anyway. And then all I'll say is I'll be at the gate, and they generally can tell me the gate before it's even up on the board. They'll know what gate I'm going out of. And I'll just say, right, I will meet your guys at that gate an hour before flight. And generally, I get there an hour before flight. They're waiting for me, and they'll get me on board. Do
you follow Frank Gardner?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Possibly.
BBC security correspondent who's in a wheelchair, and he's had some terrible issues. But it always seems to be at Gatwick.
Yeah,
always seems to be.
Yeah, at Gatwick. I've only flew out from Gatwick once, and it was before I became wheelchair dependent, so I can't comment on Gatwick. I flew out of many. I flew out from Manchester, Leeds, Birmingham, London Heathrow. Yeah. I've never had an issue. The only one time I had a particular issue was I flew back into Birmingham one day. And
it has to be Birmingham, doesn't it?
Birmingham.
It has to be Birmingham.
Why did he mention Birmingham?
Yeah. And there was no ground crew to get me off the flight.
This is what Frank Gardner says a lot. He says he's
just waiting. And it actually ended up where all of the flight crew had left the flight deck, and there was just me and the captain just chatting. I had a good conversation. It was quite an interesting conversation. But yeah,
there's no excuse for that though. They weren't
know
watching the Albion game, were they? Let's be honest.
Was this before or after the pandemic?
Oh, this was before. Yeah, it's a few years back. This one.
Because you can always say, after the pandemic, it shouldn't be an excuse, but they can always say, well, we're a bit short-staffed, we had to lay people off. But it shouldn't be an excuse.
Well, it shouldn't, because we always book it. When I book a flight, I was talking. That was the difference between the two carriers as well that I mentioned before we come on there. The fact that, as a rule, I like when I book to any flight, whether I'm coming out here or going anywhere, I can book my flight, and then I can book assistance to say I need access. I need assistance to and from my flight, my chair on the flight. So with most carriers, I can book that at the same time as when I book my flight.
Yeah.
There's one carrier that I have to mess about like 7 days prior to my flight coming out. I have to contact them. And then 7 days prior to my flight going back, I have to contact them again.
This is up from Birmingham?
No, this is the flights now that I've come on now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who did you fly with?
Qatar.
Okay. But generally, you would give them thumbs up, or
I've got no problem with. Personally. I normally fly with Emirates. I love Emirates. They're just for me, they're just you do pay that little bit of a premium compared to sort of some of the other carriers. But I just find the level of service is just that little notch above the rest of them. But yeah, Qatar, sort yourselves out. You know.
Yeah.
Why do I need to contact? You know, you've flown me out of here.
Yeah.
You know that I need that assistance. So why can't you just move that assistance on to the return flight?
It's not going to change.
It's not going to change. You know, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And if Qatar want to leave a comment in the comments down below, you know, we're happy to do that.
Or 3 free tickets.
Yes.
That would work as well.
Yeah. A nice upgrade on my flight back. That'd be nice.
Work.
Excellent. I think you should do the YouTube channel, Peter.
I think that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, you're like a natter.
Oh yeah, I can talk for England.
He likes a natter, doesn't he?
He does like a natter. He's the only person who's managed to shut Phil up on these podcasts. So can you come back next week?
I've never been so insulted.
You must have been, Phil, man of your age.
Yeah, it's something that I've looked at doing for a while now. Is starting a YouTube channel up and just about my travels and what I do, and not just about that as well. We mentioned previously that I don't use I don't use travel agents anymore. So if anybody wants any advice, or quite happy to sort of give advice, and in particular booking like assistance and things like that. There's so many different sort of aspects that we have to think about when we're traveling, and you don't need to stress about it really, because it's quite easy. There's some really simple sort of guidelines that you could use to just make your life just easier.
But I mean, it's good to hear you say you don't have to stress about it, because so many other people stress about things.
Yeah.
And to see something where you've got additional things to think about, but you've overcome it all.
Yeah.
That to me is it's an inspiration, really, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think that would be a brilliant thing to vlog about. And show from a different perspective. I'll be subscribing for sure.
I'd subscribe as well.
Yeah.
So you go home on Tuesday.
Yeah, unfortunately.
What have you got planned between them and now?
Just my usual, really. I've got a lot of friends out here now. Obviously, I've met a lot of people, and as you can probably, as you've mentioned, I'm quite a chatty guy, so I get on with everybody and anybody. I don't judge or anybody. If someone sort of sits next to me and they're quiet, I will try and spark a conversation with them. It's just the type of person I am.
Well, when you was here, you've been here a couple of times. And you've been surrounded by the ladies. Yeah. You're a very handsome man, clearly. and customers are coming up to you and chatting with you.
A couple. I think it was a Canadian guy.
Australian guy.
Australian, that's right. Yeah. I sat and had a good conversation with him for sort of half an hour or so.
But that's just Pattaya, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just Pattaya.
Yeah, I find that here everybody's just everybody's
friends here.
No,
never short of people to speak
to.
Anyway.
Definitely. Yeah, that's what I found. Now I think that's probably what really sort of appeals to me about being here. It doesn't matter where you go, what time of day or night. There's always somewhere you can go and just have a good chat. Don't always have to drink. I mean, I quite often, a lot of people at home will not believe me, but I'm actually drinking water.
I believe you. I mean, I asked you when you come in. We always ask the guests, "Would you like a drink?" I think you were the first guest that thought, "Is he offering me a beer?" Or I mean, I would give you a beer, but
to be honest, I mean, over here, obviously with the humidity as well. That's one thing that you've got to keep your fluids. You've got to keep that water for your hydration. Because it's so easy to get dehydrated out here with get a bit of heat stroke.
I'll tell you what, he's full of good advice, and we can't have him back on. He's
be absolutely
he's full of good advice.
It'd knock you for 3 days.
True. It's true.
It really does, and it's even because it's not that sunny today, or it wasn't when I actually arrived here. It's quite cloudy, but the humidity is that's.
The humidity's really gone up the last couple of years, I think. Yeah. It's just been turned up a notch.
But we've had no rain.
No.
We had a bit of thunder last night, and then still no rain.
Don't know, I was asleep. Dreaming of food.
Dreaming of that McDonald's.
Thai food.
By the way, if anybody needs to go to a chemist or whatever, or a pharmacy, and ask for rehydration salts, rehydrate is the same word in Thai as it is in English. So you just go rehydrate. And
Same with Imodium as well.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So if you ask for a pharmacy, ask for Imodium, they'll know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. Okay. So a few sherbets, a few scoops before you go home on Tuesday then?
Yeah. I probably will be having I usually scoot about during the day, come and see everybody. Pop down here, pop down. I go all over the place.
Yeah, you're down Nick's quite a lot.
Yeah,
well.
I spend most of my time is in Nick's place. I'll be in there on Sunday for the live show.
Yeah. I think this will probably be going out after you're back in the UK. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I fly back Tuesday, so I will actually land back in the UK. I don't get home probably. It'll be mid-afternoon on Wednesday by the time I actually get home.
But I'm guessing you're coming back soon, Peter.
I'm hoping so. Yeah. I've got a few things on at the moment, and I'd love to spend more time out here. 2 weeks is just not long enough. But
you get the Pattaya blues.
I always get the Pattaya blues. Oh, I just get just as generally. Yeah, the blues is the best way around it. Just book your next flight when you get home.
Exactly. I was just about to lead to that.
Book your flights. Get your confirmation if you're your outbound flight, and you've got something to sort of look forward to, and you know then that that just helps so much.
It's lovely to have you on the show. Thanks ever so much for coming.
Yeah, it's been really nice. Yeah.
I was just thinking, how are you going to get back? How are you going to get back to Soy 7 now? You're going to wheel it down Beach Road?
Yeah, probably Beach Road or Second Road, and just straight down.
I would have thought Beach Road was better for access than Second Road.
I use the side of the road anyway, so it makes no difference really.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and they're both one way as well. So if you think about it, so you don't have them to, either or really. It doesn't. It makes no difference.
You do see some great vehicles on the road in Pattaya.
Alternative transport, I call them.
Yeah, that you wouldn't see for various reasons in some other countries.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. Yeah,
for people who have been a bit longer, there's definitely options there.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Peter, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on board.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. And if leave us that email address for your taxi.
I will do. Yeah, I'll pass that on to you, and then you can put that in.
Watch out for him on Nick's show on Sunday.
I probably will make.
He'll be in the background. He'll be there.
I'll be there somewhere.
Hey.
Yeah.
Getting up to the girls and everything. Yeah. Sinking a few beers, singing a few songs. Superb. And if you do get a channel, give us the info.
I will. Yeah, definitely.
And we'll do a conflab, whatever it's called.
Yeah. Collaboration.
Collab.
Yeah, a collab.
Gotta do it. Do it. Even if it's going to be like over the it'll be like remote on a Zoom call or something. We'll do that.
Yeah, we can do it. I've got all the facilities at home to do it, so it's not a problem.
Give my love to Hull. And you were telling us very briefly that the mission's not there anymore. The Thai embassy's not there anymore.
No,
it hasn't been there for years.
Well, actually, I was saying because you were saying, I went to Hull. The actual Thai embassy was actually in Hessel, which is just down the outskirts of Hull. But no, that's gone apparently now. So the only Thai embassy now that I'm aware of is in London. Yeah.
Because people always used to say back in the day when things were so much better. If it maybe not quite got the documentation right or something, it was always...
That's what I was explaining.
Go through Hull.
That's why I went to Hull, because they were lovely people up in Hull, really friendly. Not like those people who do it properly in London.
Well, the one in Birmingham was a bit lax as well, I seem to remember.
Out in the sticks, that's why.
Do you remember the bloke who used to run it? He looked like Colonel Sanders from the KFC. In the Birmingham one. But back in the day in the 90s, he just used to give him, like, you could have anything, like a letter from Mickey Mouse or something. Give me, 90 days. And he'd just disappear and come back. Well, stamped, gone.
Marvellous.
Different world in them days. Different
Happy
world.
days, though, weren't it?
Thank you so much. If you have enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe.
If you haven't enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe twice.
Yes. We'll see you maybe do another podcast in a couple of weeks, trying to get somebody on. If anybody is in Phuket watching that wants to come on, because we're trying to do a comparison between Pattaya and Phuket. So we were thinking of contacting a few people. So if anyone's not too camera shy, wants to come on and talk about Phuket versus Pattaya, let us know.
What I will also do as well, I will give you an email address.
Yes.
So if anybody wants any advice in regards to accessibility and what things that we talked about in regards of like booking like services with airports and things like that, anybody can drop me an email.
You're going to get snowed under.
And I'm quite happy to sort of, to sort of liaise and pass any advice that I can on. It's not a problem.
Fantastic.
I've done it for a number of years now, so I've got a little bit of experience, and and it's nice. I know it's like to want to get away and think, well, I can't, and now I've done it. Why not?
Just come over. Just don't, just everybody.
You won't regret it.
Don't faff around, brilliant. As my mum used to say.
This could be a business setup.
I think so. I hope so. Yeah. Peter, once again, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll put that email address, the 2 email addresses, in the description of this podcast. And once again, if you do enjoy the podcast, subscribe to the podcast and listen in, and you can always listen to some more interesting people from here in Pattaya. But for me, Misteregg, it's goodbye.
And from Balloon Chaser, goodbye.
From me, Pete, see you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.